the desert of the real.
Welcome to the Desert of the Real. I'm your host, Jason Dietz. Joined with me is your host,
Ryan Hudson.
The Desert of the Real, Jason's Choice, is a movie podcast where I choose the movie that Ryan has to watch because he has forced me to watch a bunch of garbage for the last 4 weeks. And so now we get to watch something I think is great. Anyhow, we are two high school English teachers who also teach film studies classes, philosophy classes, creativity classes, and music appreciation classes. We have graduate degrees, and we use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, the philosophy, the film studies, and the ethics in our films, and we push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment. And we're just talking today about how I think we're approaching a year of having done these podcasts. So hopefully, we're all thinking more critically as a result of our exchange with each other and you, listeners, and your emails. Hopefully we're all generally trending upward.
We are changing the world, Dr. Dietz.
I believe that. I believe that. So we can change more of the world. You should share our podcast with someone that you know that you think could really benefit from it.
Yeah, give us a 5-star review. Leave a review. Follow us on Good Pods. That's an app that I think helps out.
Okay. Do that, sure. I don't know what that is, but...
It's like Goodreads, but for podcasts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely then. Definitely. So, this week was the first week back to work for us.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you are aware, we had some technical difficulties with last week's podcast, which hopefully by the time of your listening is fixed. By the time of our recording, it has not been fixed yet.
Yeah.
But hopefully we will have gotten the last podcast out.
We missed a week for the first time in a year.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad.
We've been really pretty consistent, I think.
It wasn't our fault.
No.
Not that we have to explain, but we lost access to something that we
to our recording software / editing software.
We don't have it yet.
So we're currently recording on some ghetto Apple app, which will probably sound way better than what we usually do, and then we'll use it all the time. Or it probably sounds like crap. But, we'll probably cut all of that out. So, or not. I guess Ryan's editing. So, what movie did we watch, Ryan?
We watched Thank You for Smoking from 2005, directed by Jason Reitman, who, as you well know, is son of Ivan Reitman, who directed Ghostbusters.
Oh, I well knew that.
Some other movies,
for
too.
Sure.
But Jason Reitman, he's still, he's still around. This movie came out in 2005.
So this is pre the birth of half of our audience. So
yeah, actually, you know what's funny? Today in my film class, I was talking the introductory survey about movies they love and stuff, movies that affected them. A lot of movies came out around this time, but it's because probably their parents owned the DVD at this point.
Oh, and so they'd seen it?
Yeah, that's my prediction. Like a lot of Cars or Pixar stuff, Disney things, or even Shrek, in the aughts.
Hopefully your parents had this DVD. I don't know.
But Jason Reitman, he directed Ghostbusters Afterlife. He didn't do the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, but he was here. He also, 2005. And this was kind of his first. This is his first movie. Yeah,
oh, wow.
He did a bunch of shorts. It obviously helps if your dad is already a famous director.
Sure.
But this is his first feature film.
Wow.
And then he directed Juno, which is kind of like the indie darling, where it just was so successful on a small budget. So kind of helped him get other things done. But anyway, yeah, Thank You for Smoking, I think it has a lot of style, a lot of, I guess, little things here and there that a lot of movies don't even bother with doing.
Right.
Like, even as a joke, or even as a sight gag type of thing.
Yeah.
So, let me give you a quick summary. Thank You for Smoking is about character Nick Naylor. He's the spokesperson for Big Tobacco.
Yeah.
And he's
a lobbyist.
Okay, Nick Naylor is a lobbyist. That's what the word is. And he takes his son with him on a business trip, and he has to bribe a former spokesperson, and there's a reporter who is writing an expose about him, and then he also gets kind of kidnapped at one point by anti-tobacco people, but he's still, no matter what, no matter everything, he's for Big Tobacco, because he's just got a gift of the gab. He can talk,
yeah.
He's good at convincing people, he's good at making people see his way, and even though things kind of go up in smoke for him and his company, he still finds a way to, use his gift of talking to win in the end.
Yeah.
And this movie is not pro-smoking, but it's not anti-smoking. This movie is deliberately, and they say this a couple times in regards to movies, like, it's trying the audience to figure things out for themselves. Yeah. So it's, I think, purposefully, we're not going to tell you this or that. It's for you to figure out smoking or non-smoking type of thing. Anyway, so it's, yeah.
Which is one of many reasons I loved it.
He's just, because he just does a bunch of things for a company, kind of gets in trouble, but because of who he is.
Pulls it
out, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And a movie that will make you think. And if you're one of Jason's students, several students have come up to you and be like, I don't like movies that make me think. But this movie will make you think.
Yeah.
Don't know if you're going to listen to this episode because you have to watch the movie first, unless you don't want to.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, definitely will make you think. So, pros. What did you like about it?
I like Aaron Eckhart, first of all.
Yeah.
He is one of those movie stars where he should be a bigger deal than he currently is. I mean, 2005, a few years later, is The Dark Knight, one of the best movies ever. But for some reason, I don't know why he's not even more around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a really good actor.
I think he is good. I mean, let's see.
Good-looking guy.
Yeah, he came out in a movie this year I've never even heard of called Chief of Station. Oh, and he was in a movie last year, The Bricklayer. There's a bunch of movies where one man is really good at fighting, takes on an army. That was one of those.
Oh.
I didn't see it, though. I don't know if a lot of people did. But anyway, so acting-wise, good. A big cast in this movie. People kept on popping up that I knew, like J.K. Simmons, William H. Macy, Robert Duvall's in it. Anyway, there's Katie Holmes, Sam Elliott.
They're just
and then there's Rob Lowe. He's the one guy. There's just a bunch of people. Like, wow, a big cast.
Pretty much, almost like the only person that's a main character in this movie that I didn't recognize was the part of the Merchants of Death.
The woman?
The woman.
Yeah.
That's literally the only person in the entire movie that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, the guy whose name is David Koechner, he's just in a lot.
Yeah.
He's not a household name, but he's a character actor who you just instantly recognize.
You would know him from The Office.
Anchorman.
Yeah, he's an Anchorman. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, fantastic cast.
And my only other, my main pro is it gets you to think. Like, it has statistics that would scare you, but this was 2005 statistics.
Right.
I wonder how much different it is, fast forwarded now to 2024, smoking deaths.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Because smoking, I don't know how popular smoking is, to be honest. I mean, we actively discourage high schoolers to not smoke.
True. No, we discourage them to smoke.
And vape, whatever. We don't want smoking or vaping.
Right.
I don't see it a lot, personally, if I'm being 100% honest.
So, Yeah, fantastic cast. Makes you think. I think it's hilarious. Especially like the first half of this, because Nick Naylor's character does things and says things that are completely just inappropriate, completely out of like what we would consider as acceptable. But because he's who he is, because he's so persuasive, because he's such a rhetorical force, people just kind of accept it. My favorite example of that is when he goes to his son's, what is it?
Like,
your dad, what does your dad do for work day? And this little girl's like, my mommy said that smoking kills you. And he just goes off on this little girl. He's like, is your mommy a doctor? Is your mommy some kind of medical researcher? Well, then maybe you shouldn't be listening to her opinion on this topic because she doesn't have any credibility. And there's just stuff like that all over in this movie.
Yeah, I made a note about that line because this is pre-social media.
Yeah.
And now everyone is an armchair expert on something.
Right.
So if you say something, it could be literally anything online. There will be someone in your ear that will say something like that. Like, oh, so are you a professional here? Or do you have a degree in this? When he says, she doesn't sound like a credible expert.
Yeah. So funny.
But like literally, this movie is a lot about arguing. And of course, our magic word of the episode, Rhetoric. Which is, in other words, I guess, the art of arguing. Mm-hmm. Or the art of persuasion.
I call it the art of using language to get what you want.
Right. And that is something we can see just casually being on social media. Could be a post about some political thing or an actor or whatever, and people say, are you an expert at this? You don't seem like a credible source.
Yeah. I wish more of us would say that, but anyhow. There's so many pieces of this that are so just great. Like, Sam Elliott plays the original Marlboro Man who's dying of cancer. And Nick Naylor's boss sends him out there to get him to take hush money.
Yeah, it's like, it's not a bribe, it's a gift.
Right. and initially he walks in, and Sam Elliott's character and his wife are like, why are you suck, I hate you.
Yeah.
And by the time he leaves, it's like the original Marlboro Man's like, heck yeah, I'll take that money. And it's just so amazing to watch a powerful rhetorician work his magic.
Yeah.
But the reason I love this movie is because it's over the top what he's doing. So it kind of exposes, like it peels back the curtain and exposes the wizard behind all of these people that are trying to get you to do things or believe things or think things the way that they want you to do or think or believe, rather than you. And so it kind of exposes, this is the bag of tricks that they're using. And I love that. That makes me so happy.
Did you ever watch, or even have you ever heard of the TV show Mad Men?
I've heard of it. Mad
Men's about an advertising agency in the 50s and 60s. The very, very first episode is, like, the pilot. Like, the show's good. I love the show. But, like, the first episode sticks out because his problem is he needs to think of something for an advertisement for a cigarette brand. And he finally comes up with, like, there's all these health issues that they're trying to avoid or trying to think around. But he just comes up with, I forget the company, I don't think it's Marlboro, but it's like, this brand, they're roasted. As in, like, we're not saying you shouldn't smoke, it's like, the flavor will be better type of thing. So that's like, oh, that's genius. And then
sidestep the issue.
The issue. And that's actually a real life advertisement that came out in the time. But it reminded me of this movie because it's smoking, and a lot of people smoke in Mad Men, but it's like, instead of how are you going to win an argument? That comes up a lot of times in this movie.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a line where he's talking to his son. If he says, and this is one of my main ideas I'll bring up, if you argue correctly, you're never wrong.
Yep. That's one of my main lines too. So yeah.
Yeah, and even like another one he says that comes up a couple times. Like, this isn't an argument; it's a negotiation. So we're not trying. You're not gonna win, but what can you negotiate?
Right.
So it's all about how are people tricking us or attempting to convince us something, or rhetoric.
Yep.
It's all the rhetoric.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of line like that. I wrote more quotes from this than I think any other movie we've done.
A lot of good quotes.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fast movie.
Yeah, like that. So we're good to move on, but I just want our listening audience to know that this is like, I don't know if you've heard of the Screw Tape Letters, but it's a C.S. Lewis book. Basically, it's a senior devil writing to a junior devil. It's like this handbook of how do you get people to, do naughty stuff. I feel like Thank You for Smoking does that same thing for modern rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a devil. He's talking to other devils. Here's all of the tricks. Mm-hmm. So if you watch this and you compare it to your social media feed or whatever, the ads, whatever, you'll see all of this stuff working against you and trying to manipulate you into thinking something.
Yeah.
So like William H. Macy's character at one point is really angry because his aide got they call it the cancer kid. They got a cancer kid to go on this talk show. And it totally backfired. Nick Naylor completely convinced the audience that he was on the cancer kid's side, Big Tobacco's on the cancer kid's side, and these other people were trying to screw him over. And so William H. Macy's like, when you're looking for a cancer kid, he should be hopeless. He should have a wheelchair. He should have trouble talking. And he goes on and on and on. So like when we see those things, like the easiest example I have is the Sarah McLachlan cat.
Yeah.
Save the cat or whatever the crap they are. Mm-hmm. They didn't pick just a random animal. They picked the cancer kid in the wheelchair that has trouble talking, that carries a goldfish around in a bag. So like anytime you see that in any ad, any TikTok, you can immediately know they are trying to manipulate you. They picked that person or that thing that looks pitiful and pathetic on purpose to manipulate your emotions. Yeah. So there's so much stuff like that.
See, I even think it makes you think, for example, Nick Naylor isn't the good guy, but then the senator who's trying to prevent smoking isn't the good guy, in quotes, either. Because he's a real, he's not nice. He's mean. He's like what you just said, he's willing to do whatever it takes to win.
Yep. And,
I think it would be, what's a good word here? It would be dishonest to assume most politicians aren't like that. What can a politician do to get funding or money or stay in a position? They're going to say things, and they're going to, appear in a certain way to promote a message. And this is I guess, arguably all commercials, products, companies.
Yeah, for sure. But you're right. I mean, any professional that relies heavily on the ability to communicate and persuade, it's super easy to fall into these traps of using rhetoric unethically. Yeah. Because I teach my students, I believe that being good at rhetoric is a superpower.
It is. It literally is.
No joke. It's better than webs. It's better than a suit that flies, because if you have mastered rhetoric, you can do anything. And I think this movie illustrates that. Nick Naylor over and over and over convinces the most staunch anti-smoking people that they're wrong and that smoking's actually good, or it has good things about it. Yeah. And it's just amazing to watch the power of rhetoric as it works on people that are not critical thinkers that don't have any shielding for that.
And like, but besides the one line that says, if you argue correctly, you're never wrong, there's another line that says, I don't have to prove to you that you're wrong, but that I'm right. And that's another, like, if you understand these rhetorical tools, you can use them and abuse them, I guess.
Yeah.
But
which is why we also learn ethics in my class. We have a whole 3-week course on ethics. But
that's funny.
Yeah, because it's super easy. I mean, you've taken all my quotes at this point that I was going to use.
There's
for
some
ethics.
really good ones, though.
But yeah, no, here's one that's surprisingly, I think, more pertinent now than it was at the time. One of near the end, there's a congressional hearing on whether or not we should include the skull and crossbones on tobacco packaging. They bring expert after expert. One of the experts say the American public doesn't respond to masthead anymore, meaning they don't respond to written argument anymore. We've done studies that suggest that the American public reacts up to 90% more to imagery rather than words. I think that's even more true now than it was then, because we've got TikTok and Instagram that are almost entirely image and almost no text at all, and that's what we're buying into. That's what we're believing. That's what we're allowing to shape us. So I don't know. I'm super in love with this movie. So, yeah.
There's one little part that made me laugh was when they're on a TV show and William H. Macy's talking in through a TV interview. And the guy says, "Oh, I like the tie clip." If you pay attention, the tie clip disappears. And then he says something like, "Oh, why didn't you..." I don't know what the line was. He says something to the effect of, "Wow, what a good point," to Aaron Eckhart. And the tie clip reappears. Like he's trying to win him over. And if that's not how it was filmed, then I misread that. But I was like, that is so funny.
I didn't notice that.
The subtle appearing and disappearing of the tie clip.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any strong negatives.
I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any negatives. I love this movie.
I'll always come back around to it will make you think. I mean, or at least just make you realize things. Yeah. Like the whole, how much money would a Hollywood executive get from a tobacco company for characters to smoke or something?
Yeah.
I mean, there's things like that, not just smoking, that must be just so true.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some things that aren't as serious. Like, there's a funny behind-the-scenes story for one of the Transformers, 4 or something. And it was we're going to put Oreos. We got an Oreo advertisement in our product placement in our movie. And this guy who worked on the movie talks about how one of the marketing guys, we'll just have them eating Oreos, twisting and dunking just as they talk. Wow, that's a really good idea, really subtle, not in your face. And then Oreo or someone up the ladder is no, we need an Oreo transformer. And so you see a transformer in the movie that's an Oreo robot from an Oreo vending machine.
What the heck?
And how that was so much more expensive for animators and people to make. But there's things like that aren't as serious. Right. Like money going into movies. But what about smoking? Things that can really affect you, or drinking and things. How much money... I imagine even people pushing specific ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, have something like this or whatever.
Yeah.
That's in the system.
Yeah.
But the problem is Rob Lowe describing this scene with Brad Pitt or whatever. Sounds like a pretty good scene. Not gonna lie. Where are we gonna get that movie?
I would never watch that scene. But yeah, just the idea, they're before they get to that Hollywood executive, there's the board of Big Tobacco, and they're how can we get more people to smoke? And that was his idea. All we have to do is go get a movie with super famous people in it, and just have them smoke.
Yeah. We
don't have to say smoking is awesome or whatever. And I think so much of what we're persuaded to do is just that.
Yeah.
That's, it's called ethos. it's part of the rhetorical triangle. But like, if that person who I love their movies, I think they're hot, I respect their opinion or whatever, if they're doing it, there's just this something in us, if we're not thinking critically about it, that's like, oh, I guess I should be doing that too, because that person's awesome. I want to be awesome, or I want to be like them, or whatever. It's just this subtle use of rhetoric to manipulate us that's just pervasive all over.
So there are some... Smoking can be cinematic. There's a few scenes I can think of smoking where like, yeah, kind of cool. Liam Neeson, he talked about when he was making Schindler's List, Spielberg was like telling him how to smoke, and he was like getting annoyed at first. Like, he's telling me how to breathe. Like, who does this guy think he is? But he's more like, yeah, just hold it in, let it out. But it works. And like, there's subtle things like that. But then on the other side, I saw a tweet not too long ago. There was a behind-the-scenes picture taken from someone on a smartphone. It's not even clear, of these famous actors in the show smoking. And the tweet was, "This picture just undid 20 years of anti-smoking for me." It's like, oh, there's just these actors I like just casually smoking, and it's not even like in the show. It's just them hanging out of the show. Yeah. Smoking's bad. Do not smoke.
The power of ethos.
Let's just say that every 5 minutes.
Don't
smoke. Smoking is bad.
Smoking is something I've never figured out why anyone would start.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Also, smoking a cigarette is fast. You smoke through one really quickly.
Oh.
I
have no idea.
I've known some smokers, and one pack is so expensive.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much it is now. Let me see.
I don't know either.
How much is one pack of cigarettes? It's anywhere from $6 to $12 for one pack.
Okay. And
if you're smoking a pack a day, that's a lot of money a day you could be saving.
That's true.
I have some statistics. Do you want some statistics?
Sure, that is another part of the rhetorical triangle.
Oh, really?
Logos.
Were you going to do statistics?
Go ahead.
As of 2024, about 480,000 deaths each year in the United States to cigarettes, which makes it still the number one cause of death that can be prevented.
Mm.
It causes more deaths than AIDS, alcohol, car accidents, illegal drugs, murders, and suicides combined.
Wow.
I also saw about however many people try to quit, only 7% successfully quit because it's hard, takes a lot of willpower and stuff.
Yeah.
And he talks to the merchants of death, alcohol, and gun violence. At least in 2021, gun deaths were about 50,000 in the United States.
Per year?
Yeah, in 2021.
Dang.
The thing I got it from. So, still bad. Obviously, all of these are bad, but smoking is just...
the baddest.
Is the baddest.
That's true.
Do not smoke.
But, right, yeah. And we all know that, whatever, we've had that. And yet, the tobacco companies are still here, and they're still making money.
Yeah.
And so that suggests to us that, we know... Probably everyone knows someone that died from smoking. We know smoking is going to lead to crappy stuff later.
Yeah, bad breathing. Hard to exercise. Lung cancer, among others.
Yeah, all of that.
Bad breath.
And yet, somehow people still start a habit that most people try to quit after they've started.
Yeah.
And so, if we shift, I guess we're done with pros and cons. We'll shift into ethics. And so somehow, this deadly company with this deadly product is still making billions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
How do they do it? I believe, as probably you have figured out, it's rhetoric. It's all about how they use what they know about how we are persuaded against us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because there's no commercials on TV for smoking.
Right. There's none in magazines anymore either.
And even when there were, half the page was like, do not smoke. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a big black square.
And they're really, I mean, I guess I don't know, but like it doesn't seem like they're that prevalent in movies either. Smokers.
Because now...
Especially compared to the 80s when I was growing up.
And it can also affect a movie's rating now.
Yeah.
If it's part of the... why it's rated PG or PG-13 or whatever.
And so
smoking.
How is it still going?
How is the question?
Yeah.
And now we have to deal with vaping, which was like the no smoke, but still nicotine thing.
Right. This is the same stuff.
It's the same thing, but...
So...
I don't know, because even I am chronically online, which is bad, but it's not like people are pushing for it either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like big... I don't know. I don't follow big influencers overtly. Or whatever. But I don't know where it comes from. Even as a high school teacher who teaches high school students, I don't exactly see where they will... Like, no one's targeting them. Did anyone target you as a high school student?
No, but I was a nerd, so...
So was I. Who am I kidding me? But it wasn't in the movies back then, social media as it was. It wasn't there. It's always... I don't know. You get it from someone in real life, for the most part.
Sure. So, if we take this apart, in terms of rhetoric, what's going on, I think the main tool that the tobacco industry uses against us is a rhetorical tool called framing, which is exactly what it sounds like. If you frame a picture, you're putting something around the part of the picture that you want people to pay attention to.
Like the Mad Men example.
Sure.
They're roasted. It's better.
Yes. And so I feel like the tobacco industry has successfully and very subtly framed in for us the parts of the smoking experience that they want us to pay attention to. Even though there are no longer... I remember TV ads. I remember magazine ads. I remember lots of people smoking in movies. You guys we today don't have any of that. And so what is the frame? Like, where is that? So we are living... How long has vape been a thing? 10 years? Something like that?
I about that, yeah.
So we are in a space where the tobacco industry has successfully shifted from cigarettes and smoking tobacco to vaping. What they did, I believe, to pull that off was they framed their own product as bad. Smoking a cigarette as bad. It makes your, like all the stuff that we ran through.
Oh, interesting.
Makes your breath stink. It makes blah, 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 blah. And so they framed the cigarette as bad. Here's the alternative. This doesn't make your breath stink. In fact, at least initially, you can have bubblegum, vapes and whatever
and
vapes.
It's like it doesn't make a smell.
No smell.
No smoke.
No nothing. And so they've framed their own product as evil to sell this whole next generation on something that's basically the same exact thing. You'll have the same health issues.
Yep.
You'll have the same addictions. You'll have the same blah, blah, blah. And so that idea is exactly what this movie is about. Because Nick Naylor's character is not above doing anything to even like chucking, like when in the congressional hearing, there's this moment where William H. Macy's character asks him, when your kid turns 18, will you let him smoke? And you can see there's this moment like he's thinking, and then he finally says, yeah, I'd buy him his first pack. And that was the end of the congressional hearing. Like, just that moment was over. So these guys, and not just tobacco, but anyone that's trying to make money off of you, is using this rhetorical tool to make you focus on the things they want you to focus on.
Yeah.
And if you aren't aware of it, and if you're not thinking about it, you will think that they're showing you the entire picture. But they're not. They're only framing in and calling attention to the parts of the picture that they want you to see. So, like, for example, another example, and then I'll shut up because I realize I'm filibustering at this point. But, like, if you watch a car ad, right? Like, a brand new car costs what? I've never bought one. What, $40,000?
We'll go with that.
I have no idea. Anyhow, brand new car costs $40,000. Where in a TV or in a commercial do you see that particular piece of information? You don't. Or if you do, it's at the very, very end after they've given you all of the other stuff that they want you to focus on.
Yeah. Like
the mudding and the, climbing the hills and the family's happy and the blah, blah, blah. By the way, this cost $40,000. The end, right? It's all everywhere. Everywhere uses framing against us. And so, I'll shut up and let you have some mic time.
It's all good stuff. Like,
okay, while you're consulting your notes, you had a quote from Nick Naylor, our villain/hero.
Our protagonist, no matter what.
Okay, sure.
No, he is.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to,
I guess.
Protagonist doesn't have to be a good guy.
That's true. So he says to his kid, when he's training his kid in rhetoric, you already mentioned this, but he says, I didn't have to prove my point. I just had to prove that you were wrong. And if you were wrong, I'm right. That's it. So it's fallacious reasoning, but that is an unethical use of rhetoric. Because you're not actually proving your point. You're just making the other person look stupid, and then you're the only other option left. They do that all the time to us.
Yeah.
They don't prove that their thing or whatever is true. It's just they make this person look like an idiot, and I'm the only one left standing. But we have good examples of that in, as of time of recording, our current presidential election. We have good examples of, I don't have to prove I'm right. I just have to make you look stupid, and I'm the one left standing. Yeah. So I'll shut up about that now because the end. So what do you got?
I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but there's a line that Rob Lowe's character, the Hollywood executive, says, Hollywood's position is that the audience should make the decision of what is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Which is true. You know, like the movies, no matter what, you should make your own, form your own opinions, do the research, ponder about it, whatever. Don't let movies tell you what's right or wrong. This podcast, at its core, or what it hopes its core is getting us to think about movies deeply.
Yeah.
And that one quote, which gets said, I think twice.
Nick Naylor says it, and
it's like, does the common moviegoer actually decide, though? Or are we being told? And I think we're being told.
Yeah. Because if we're not critical about watching, 100%.
And I think that's something to be worried about. Yeah, because movies are a work of art. They're also a business transaction. People want to make money. But how much of it is propaganda type of thing?
I think agendas drive just about all movies. I think there's a message that somebody in the production process wants conveyed by what they choose. So here's an interesting... Were you done? I'm sorry.
I was just... No, you can go.
I'm sorry. I love this movie.
Yeah.
So, we talked earlier in a previous episode about sex scenes in movies, right?
Yeah.
I think they are pointless. They don't progress anything. They're at this point, there's not even... I don't want to say there's not art to them, but it's just kind of ubiquitous. Every movie has this. And so...
since you brought it up, let me just... I just saw this today.
Sweet.
Published by The Hollywood Reporter. A new study says 10 to 24-year-olds find that 47% of sex scenes aren't needed. And most TV shows and movies... in most TV shows and movies. And 44% believe romance is overused. Take that as you will. But
well, that gives me some hope.
Right. I'm trying to say there's a trend that is agreeing with what you're saying.
Well, is 40% up or down from what it was before?
It's up because these are teenagers. These are...
Oh, which all...
the teenage demographic
want sex scenes in
movies.
Want
less sex scenes.
Now.
Yeah.
They used to want more.
This is a new trend.
Oh.
With like the
good
TikTok.
Job, us.
I can't... People struggle with this. Like, what's happening to these kids? This is like the generation wanting the Hays Code all over again. But these kids grew up with the Me Too movement going on.
Yeah.
This movement that talks about women being mistreated in real life and highlighting how movies mistreat women or like maybe misuse women even or like maybe it's unfair. But now we're being confused that teenagers being raised and told this for a while don't want to see sex scenes in movies.
Yeah.
It's backwards logic that people can't understand this.
Well, it's old people versus new people, I think.
And it's also like the I don't know, in quotes, film critic. Like, if you imagine like the character of film critic,
right?
And like, why would these youth? Even though there's a lot of different film critics, whatever. But
that's where I was going with. And the Me Too movement is a really good. So let's put a pin in that, which we won't remember, but
in the Me Too movement,
pinning the Me Too movement. So there has to be a reason, especially if what you're saying is true. There has to be a reason they're still there. There has to be someone pushing that from behind. Otherwise, because Hollywood has always, I feel like, been the trendsetter.
Yeah.
They bring something in, and then suddenly that thing is cool. Doing that is cool. Like, that's the power of Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's why this podcast exists, to kind of call attention to that and help us kind of deflate some of that power. But if we take sex scenes in movies, that's a great example of what we're talking about. Like, there has to be something behind the scenes pushing that agenda, because they show up in like completely random places. There's just this sex scene that's not connected to anything. It doesn't move the plot forward. It's just there for no reason. And then we just get back to the story.
I also wonder if this is a reaction to... because Netflix streaming services don't have to follow broadcast rules. And broadcast rules like ABC, NBC, CBS, they can't have explicit sex scenes and language and things. I wonder if this is a reaction to a generation having a Netflix childhood or whatever, being like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff that maybe I wouldn't have seen otherwise. I mean, this is... I don't know. This is a big, complicated topic. But I wonder if that's part of it. Like, oh, I like this show, but why is this in here?
Yes.
Because Game of Thrones famously is like, we love Lord of the Rings. Why don't these characters have sex, you know? And it's like, let's give them a horny show where it happens.
It's another reason I won't ever watch it then.
But then, the later seasons cut back. And now the new spin-off show, House of Dragon, there are sex scenes, but it's not nowhere near like it was the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like, it died down, and I think they had to. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even... I'm just saying things I think sometimes.
No, that's what this is about.
I think there's also, even, the archetype... or the caricature film critic is also like, why don't these superheroes have sex, you know? Why are they all chaste? But I'm like, I don't think the kids watching it or the audience watching it, for the most part, even care about that.
Right.
Or even want that. It's a weird, I don't know. Internet people get weird sometimes about stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I hope there's a trend that Hollywood will finally pick up on, and we won't have to use VidAngel anymore.
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Like, for real, it's just absurd. But like, that's the film version of smoking. Like, who is demanding it? Who is pushing it? Like, it's shadow. We don't know, but somebody clearly is, because they show up in it's like these random places in movies where they don't really belong. They don't move the thing forward. Anyhow, so that's how we are being manipulated without knowing it, because it's there. What's the message of a sex scene? Well, at the very least, and I purposely don't watch them anymore, but I don't think I've ever seen a sex scene where the male body was the glorified body.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, with the whole, like, the Me Too thing, where it's like women have been treated differently. If it comes to, like, specifically a sex scene, you're not going to see a naked man. You are going to see a lot of naked women.
Right. And so we have that. That's a clue.
Yeah. So,
like, why are they still there? What's the agenda? Who's pushing it? So we don't ever see, or at the very most, we see, like, a man's butt. Like, and I haven't seen a movie with a sex scene in it for, I don't know, probably 20 years. So I'm sure they're worse now. But they're all, like, it's all about the female body as an object to be admired, etc., etc., etc. So if that's what we have to work with, we can analyze that, and we ask the question, okay, who is benefiting from that? So if we can figure out who benefits from the objectification of the female body, we can figure out who's behind it. And I don't want to push that any further, but we can do that with anything. So who benefits from X thing? If we can figure that out, then we know who the arguer is. Then we can bring in our critical thinking tools, and we can be like, okay, this person, what is their purpose? What do they want out of, in this case, displaying this woman's body? What are they assuming about their audience? What are the implications of the fact that we're going along with this story? Oh, here's a naked person, and then we go back with, what are the implications of that? If we passively accept this, what are the consequences? Like, if we continue watching movies where the female body is continually presented not as a thinking human being or an intelligent person, but just a shape to be ogled and whatever, what are the consequences of that? And I think, to bring it to the pin that we put in, I think the Me Too movement is the consequence of that. And the Me Too movement, I think, is a really good example of how rhetoric can be used ethically and powerfully. Yeah. Because the Me Too movement is, I think your point is exactly right. The Me Too movement has caused that reduction of desire to see that, because the Me Too movement successfully took these former objects and helped us see these are human beings. This is a person that has a family, they have feelings, they're not just hot, they're not just a shapely body. There's a whole life behind that. Yeah. Which is what the porn industry and apparently Hollywood is, for some reason, seems to be desperate to not allow us to realize. So here's another, was not any of what I planned, but here's another example of this. We've talked about the Marvel male-female ratio before, right? Why are all the powerful characters in Marvel male, except for we have Captain Marvel, I think, is the only one that has actual powerful powers, right?
And Scarlet Witch.
Oh, and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Black Widow's just really good with guns and dead. And then everyone else is male. Why are we so scared of powerful women and bringing powerful women in? Or if you, like, just pick completely random, just pop up your Netflix, poke the first movie, watch it, I would be almost willing to bet $100 that the main character of that movie is male, and that the female character in that movie has very little like depth to her. She's just a foil to the male character.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Probably male writers.
Sure. It's whatever it is, that fact, if we watch movie after movie after movie after movie where the men are in charge, the men are running it, the men are the powerful, the men are the intelligent, it's almost inevitable for someone that isn't a critical thinker to start thinking, oh, I guess women just kind of are there. They just fill the support role. They aren't that powerful and they aren't that smart. It's almost inevitable. And so unless we as a people become critical thinkers and start rising up against stuff like this is just one example. We start rising up against the inequality in power and intellect and even screen time, male versus female. We're just going to keep getting this, and the women in the world are going to continue to get this message over and over and over every movie that they see, and will be programmed that way. So what do you think?
Well, I also can't remember how we even got to... Because Thank You for Smoking is not about this at all.
No, but this is another example of what we're doing.
So there's a flip side, though, that maybe, I don't know if you are seeing, because it's not reflective in movies. It's a recent trend where a lot of movies or shows have a female main character, but now all of a sudden there are jokes and things are specifically targeting against men. And you know what? The flip example of what you're talking about, like, oh, Hollywood portraying women like this. But what about a kind of a trend we're seeing where it's women are the best and are able to, like, women are seen as doing things better sometimes, or women are seen being also, how to make a strong woman? We'll make her just like a man type of thing instead of nuance and stuff. What's the guy we named our podcast after?
Jean Baudrillard.
Jean Baudrillard. His whole desert of the real idea is like you build, or a bubble is made, and like this is your world essentially. Mm-hmm. A lot of things we see, which are the opposite of what you're just talking about, comes from the LA bubble. The writers and directors who live in LA and live online, seeing things on their Twitters or social medias about how awful things are here, or things are like this there, or maybe mindsets and stuff, where it doesn't reflect reality now.
Yeah.
There's a whole country of people where it doesn't reflect how writers in LA are. So it's like we keep getting a bunch of movies or TV shows where the joke is targeting at certain people, but it's like, wait, but why though? Type of thing.
Yeah.
A current trend is this idea of now we're switching the tide, right? But is it doing it correctly?
I don't think that the solution to inequity and abuse is to flip and now abuse the abuser and make the abuser unequal. I don't think that's going to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to make more problems. So the solution, well, anyhow, we don't have enough time for
don't have enough time for this.
We don't. So, you said that's not what this movie is all about, but it is. So let me tie this back into the Thank You for Smoking. So the sex scenes, the goal of which is to, for some reason, push women into a certain role, is the exact same thing that the tobacco industry is doing. They both have an agenda, they both want a certain outcome, and they're both using rhetoric to accomplish that outcome. Yeah. They're not using it visibly, they're not making it obvious, this is what we're doing to you to try and persuade you. In fact, they're doing their best to make sure you never figure out that they are trying to persuade you to think a certain way. They want, if they can succeed in convincing us that, oh yeah, that must be the natural way of things, because it's over and over and over in these movies, then they win.
Yeah.
And that's why it's it's so desperate for us to become critical thinkers, because otherwise they do win. Mm-hmm. If we don't recognize, okay, in my own life experience, I have powerful women who do amazing things. These movies do not reflect my experience of women. If we don't ever do that and start pushing back on Hollywood's version of women, they're going to win. And so the same thing with tobacco. They successfully demonized the cigarette and made vaping the new whatever it is.
Yeah.
If we don't ever push back on that, they're going to win. I mean, the health issues with vaping and smoking are not necessarily the same issues, but there are definitely still health issues.
Yeah.
Vaping hasn't been around long enough to have this long record of these are all the terrible things that happen, but it's the same product.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just in a different package.
Yeah.
And so we have to start taking the power away from the people who are trying to manipulate us by learning how to think critically, by learning how to say, okay, that's what they're presenting. Is that true in my experience? Is that true in my life? And if not, we need to start rejecting it. Stop going to these movies that are promoting things that you don't believe in or that you don't value.
How do you know what a movie promotes if you don't see it?
Oh, I don't know. If only we had a large database of other people's reactions to things.
I know, but can you trust that? I don't know if you can trust
I don't either.
Joe Blow on the internet anymore.
Okay, so here's another possible solution. VidAngel and enjoy movies your way.
VidAngel, you want to sponsor us? For the love.
Provide us with the opportunity to select exactly what we don't want to see in movies. If you don't want to see smoking, there's a
smoking
one. There's a smoking one. There's a
silly.
Drugs one. There's a.
I mean, maybe not silly. But
sex. There's.
You know what? I just watched a movie, Bike Riders.
Sure.
Like a biking gang in the 70s with Tom Hardy and the guy who just played Elvis. He's Austin Butler. And these biker gangs, they just sit around and talk a lot. They're just smoking and they're smoking here, they're smoking. The whole movie, they're just smoking. I'm like, to me, I'm like, I can't think of anything I'd want to do less. Just this looks kind of gross if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
I think I have something that kind of ties it in.
Okay.
Or maybe not. I don't know. I want to bring some.
I'm done. I feel like I beat that to death, but this is my passion. Waking us up. Helping us see the man behind the curtain. And it's always a man, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know.
Okay. Even though you, right now, Jason, you might know the difference between satire and parody, our listener might not. I wanted to kind of pinpoint, iron out the details really quick.
Do it.
Satire versus parody. Satires, which is what this movie is. A satire offers commentary and criticism about the world. So it's a satire is saying something about a specific type of person or something we're familiar with. And it's usually highlighting something, once again, to think about or just kind of criticize. So think of, if you saw Don't Look Up on Netflix, how do people react when something catastrophic is being told by scientists or whatever? A lot of times, a lot of satires are poking at either politics or rich people or class systems, like Triangle of Sadness, The Truman Show, satirizing our obsession with media, before reality TV. Anyway, so satire, it's jokes providing a commentary or criticism about something from the world.
Yeah. A
specific vice, group, or person. A parody doesn't attack so much as a comedic commentary about a work that that requires an imitation of the work. So a parody is specifically just making fun of something we already know about. So that's like the Mel Brooks' Spaceballs parodying Star Wars, or like the Naked Gun parodying cop movies and stuff. High Anxiety, another Mel Brooks parodying Hitchcock. Where satires, it's how do people react when something like this happens? How does a political party react when something like this happens? Usually criticizing, offering that commentary.
Yeah.
But a parody it's a reference more. It's not.
It's just making fun of it.
Kind of making fun of it.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway, I thought.
Good to know.
But Thank You for Smoking is a satire.
Yeah.
It wants you to think about this specific type of person who smokes or defends smoking, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, the last shot is ambiguous. So at the end of the movie, he got fired, goes to the hearing anyway, does his magic talking, comes out the winner, gets J.K. Simmons offers him his job back. He declines. And then he goes to work for
himself.
He goes to work for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the last shot of the movie, but it's something like, and I'm always happy, or it alludes to him saying he's going to keep doing what he's doing, or he loves it or something. Yeah. And it cuts to him smiling. Yep. And you can read that smile like he actually doesn't love it. Or it's ambiguous. It's like the Mona Lisa smile.
Yeah.
Like what is he trying to say, or what is he hiding? Hypothetically, that his face at the very last could mean all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but
it's true.
If you're the good person wanting a better world, you're like, oh, maybe he might change, or he won't. He's not going to change. I don't think he is.
No.
But maybe he knows he's doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An ambiguous last shot there.
Which is a good choice for a morally ambiguous movie, I think.
Yeah. One thing a big idea we could bring up for more media literacy of the real is like this idea of loyalty. Are you loyal to your boss, your job, your government? Who's he loyal to?
Yeah.
He has his boss, but then there's Robert Duvall, who he kind of sees as a father figure and stuff. And
yeah.
So, like, why is he loyal? Is he just loyal for the money? He says that. Anyway, what are you loyal to? Not you in real life right now, but...
You in real life.
Yeah, you, the microphone. The people's...
In real life.
Kind of brings that idea up.
Yeah. What do you give your allegiance to?
Right, yeah. I like this movie a lot.
Me too.
I like it. And more people should see it. I do think the name, Thank You for Smoking, the poster is a man with a cigarette head, maybe might put some people off, but
yeah,
I don't think,
they
it's
might
not.
Masterpiece. I think it's fantastic.
You think it's fanatic?
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, Nick Naylor is pretty fanatic.
Yeah.
I thought one other thing, sorry, because I'm still thinking about... So if we look at the female characters in Thank You for Smoking, there are only 2 of them.
And his ex-wife, but she's not.
Not really in the picture.
Yeah.
One of the 2 of them, what is her role?
The Merchant
Katie
of
Holmes.
Death? Oh.
Katie Holmes' character.
Yeah. So is that... She uses her body to get information because she knows that that's his weakness.
Sure.
So is that empowering, or is that...
I don't know, but that's sure interesting.
Yeah.
And then the very end of this, what happens to her? Because he
flips it back on her.
Yeah, and she gets fired because she did that, right?
Yeah.
Nick Naylor was also a 50% participant in all of the the whatever sex stuff.
Yeah.
What happens to him?
He
becomes super successful. He wins everything. So, like, I don't... Okay, I'll admit that women in movies is a soapbox for me. I'll admit that. I think that Hollywood has, for 100 years, denigrated women, and created a place where women no longer can feel powerful, act powerful, be powerful. And I think that's Hollywood's fault. Was the first film ever, The Great Train Robbery. How many women were in that? 0. We can look through even the glory days of cinema, where you have Cary Grant and whoever, who are the powerful people. It sure as heck isn't the women. It's the women's role is to be the beautiful object that Cary Grant wants and gets. Like, we could look at James Bond. What's the role of women in James Bond? They're just objects for James Bond to win. And so I think Hollywood, at some point in the future, I hope Hollywood gets called to task for what they have done to the female psyche by never ever, almost, giving women a powerful role. The only person that I can think of that has consistently refused that is Jodie Foster. She's one of my top 5 actors of all time. Jodie Foster is almost always a powerful woman. She has power, she acts powerfully, and she doesn't do that largely by becoming the man, like you said. She uses what it means to be a woman to be powerful and successful in the movies that she's in. So, for example, Flight Plan is a movie of hers that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
You guys watch that. And she plays the mother, right?
Yeah.
And Hollywood has tried to make the mother this weak back character, but in Flight Plan, the mother is power. The love of the mother is power. Or we look at Panic Room. You just watched Panic Room. Same thing. She uses what it means to be a woman to defeat these home invaders and to win. Spoilers. And so why don't we have more Jodie Fosters in cinema?
Because Hollywood keep trying to make a woman like a man. Why can't we have characters that are motherly?
That's what I'm talking about.
Why do we have to have female characters that need to be stronger than men characters? Physically.
Right.
And also hate feminine things to oh, I'm above such that. No, I'm a CEO. I'm a girl boss. I think there's some things we're overcorrecting. And I don't
think that's a correction.
You're right. Okay, let me specifically and clearly say women, people of color, LGBT, characters, and humans in real life have been historically mistreated and downtrodden in the history of film.
Absolutely.
So, is there an easy solution that will make everyone happy? Probably not.
Just let everyone be.
I mean,
who they are.
That sounds good, but at what point is it a female character, a real life person that you can meet in real life?
Jodie Foster.
Well, we can't all be Jodie Fosters in this world.
But why can't we write female characters that are female and also powerful? They're powerful because of their femininity. We don't. Even in it's probably especially in the Marvel universe, are those characters powerful females, or are they just women that are powerful in the same way that men are powerful?
That's what I mean. We don't know how to... Hollywood hasn't made a... That's what I mean.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
We're kind of talking about the same thing, I think, in different
I know we are, and I'm saying that I'm just going to say, I think it's time for the critically thinking audience to start rejecting things that are not true. Things that are clearly trying to manipulate us and program us to think about certain groups of people in certain ways. Okay. Anyhow, thank you for smoking.
Don't smoke.
Is a great movie that reveals the wizard behind the curtain. It helps us see that things that are showing up over and over and over in movies or in our lives are are put there to manipulate us.
Yeah.
They're there because someone wants that to get into your head, and it wants you to think that's the way that things are. The example that we've been using is women in movies who are presented over and over and over as a certain type of person. But the same thing is true for smoking. The same thing is true for anyone that wants to profit in monetary ways or social ways from you believing a certain way. The only defense that we have against this is critical thinking. It is thinking about behind the scenes, what does this person want? What is their purpose in doing this? What are they assuming about me? It's called the Paul Elder critical thinking model. If you want to look it up, it's very simple to understand, but once we get it inside of our brains, the world changes. I firmly believe that, because we are no longer manipulatable, because we have this shield of critical thinking that's going to block it. So that's all I've got to say.
Good movie. I just wanted one final thing that's just kind of fun to chew on.
Okay.
There's one point where him and his son are in the lobby before the Hollywood guy. They just watch the TV of a killer whale eating a seal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just kind of fun just looking at it.
Yep.
It's killer whale eating the seal.
Yep.
Anyway, next week, unless
we forgot the dessert. There's a really good dessert.
What's the dessert of the reel?
The dessert of the reel is apple pie with a slice of cheese over it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which sounds disgusting, I don't know, but it was a crucial part of the movie. So, there you go.
It actually was. Unless I have a baby and we need to improvise, because my wife's due any time now, the next episode will be Eternals.
Okay.
Then Spider-Man, No Way Home. Whip, whip. And then Doctor Strange.
Okay.
There's one I just don't even know what you'll think about. You'll probably hate it.
Okay. We'll see.
Anyway, thank you for listening. We love you.
We do love you. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.